Hello, Andrew here again, and today we're at episode 188, and we're now moving into what we call the Last Supper, Matthew chapter 26, verses 20 through to 25. When it was evening, Jesus took his place with the 12, and while they were eating, he said, Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him one after another, Surely not I, Lord. He answered, The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to the one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born. Judas, who betrayed him, Surely not I, Rabbi. He replied, You have said so. There is something both disturbing and heartening about this story. The first heartening aspect is that the disciples are not looking at one another and asking the question, well, who is it? Which one of you is it going to be? I know it's not me, so it must be one of you. Come on, own up. It doesn't work like that, does it? What is both heartening and disturbing about this is that each recognises, in spite of what they say a little later in the evening, that there is a possibility within each of them that they could be the betrayer, if not intentionally, at least accidentally. This is a moment of both self-reflection and self-examination, perhaps each realising that they have within them the capacity to turn Jesus in. No one of us knows how we'll behave given sufficient pressure, given sufficient incentive, either negative or positive, to cave in to the demands of those in authority. Simply threatening family members may be enough for one, while being showered with gold may be enough for another. It could also be that there have been times of doubt for each one of them, when they've not been sure of Jesus. Perhaps even times when it might have occurred to them, in the face of Jesus prophesying his doom, you keep talking like this and I'll turn you over myself. Anything to get you to stop. Now, maybe being a little bit facetious, but for some of them that might have been really, really difficult. And Jesus doesn't let them off the hook. He tells them that it's one of them who has shared the dipping bowl with him, which is all of them. Clearly he responds in the affirmative to Judas's direct question. He's simply letting Judas know that he knows. The hardest bit though is the words, but woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born. It's tempting, isn't it, to think of this as a condemnation, as a judgment, as a this is what God's going to do to you. I suspect it's not that. It seems to me that these are simply descriptive words of the ultimate reality of the betrayer. They describe his inner reality. And we see it being played out in Judas in his final actions and taking his own life. Life that is something he can no longer bear. The consequences of what he's done are more than he can live with. It's one of the reasons I don't think that Judas anticipated this outcome, but that he thought that perhaps he was forcing Jesus' hand and that Jesus would likely rally the troops and the new order which Jesus had been talking about for the last 3 years would begin. As I've said, I have no doubt that had Judas stayed alive, he would have found forgiveness and restoration. There's a place in the story where we are all Judas. We are all a hair's breadth away from actions that either intentionally or inadvertently could lead to great harm. For example, I'm a petrol head. Not so much as I used to be, but it's still there within me. I've been known to speed as I drive. I don't know how I'd be if my speeding resulted in the death of others. there, but by the grace of God. When I was younger, I was told that either my guardian angel was working overtime or that guardian angel was likely to get off, to bail out when I exceeded the speed limit. It doesn't take much to think of other areas in our lives where we have each got the capacity for causing harm to others. And we may find ourselves in the same place as Judas, where we wish that we'd never been born. The thing is that there is always a path back, always room for a new beginning with Jesus. I've no doubt that if Jesus had not taken his own life, he would have been one of the first people that the risen Christ would have sought out. You can see the list of others that Jesus had a special meeting with. One was his brother James, the eldest of his siblings, who totally was contrary to Jesus, but Jesus sought him out. And he became the leader of the Jerusalem church. I wonder if Judas would qualify as one of the spirits in prison that Peter refers to in his letter in chapter 3 verse 19, or in chapter 4 verse 6 where we read that the gospel was preached even to those who are now dead. I'm confident that there is nothing that is beyond the reach of the forgiving and restoring grace of God. No one, not even Judas and Paul, who was Saul of Tarsus, would have the same conviction. A man with a good deal of blood, of Christian blood on his hands before he met Jesus on the Damascus road, and continued to describe himself as the chief of sinners. Yet he too found that place of forgiveness, for restoration, for a fresh start, a new beginning. And it wasn't his initiative. It's really important to recognize that. It wasn't that he was going off in search of Jesus. It was actually the Lord Jesus himself, like the hound of heaven in Francis Thompson's magnificent poem, who ran him down. If you've never heard it before, and surely you must have, I'll give you a taste with the first and the last verse. There's quite a few verses in between. I fled him down the nights and down the days. I fled him down the arches of the years. I fled him down the labyrinthine ways of my own mind, and in the midst of tears I hid from him, and under running laughter up visted hopes I spared, and shot precipitated down titanic glooms of chasm fears. For those strong feet that followed after, but with unhurrying chase, an unperturbed pace, deliberate speed, majestic instancy, they beat, and a voice beat, more instant than the feet. All things betray thee, who betrayest me. And the last verse. All that which I took from thee I did but take, not for thy harms, but just that thou mightest seek it in my arms. All which thy child's mistake fancies as lost, I have stored for thee at home. Rise, clasp my hand and come. Halts by me that footfall. Is my gloom after all, shade of his hand outstretched caressingly. Ah, fondest, blindest, weakest, I am he whom thou seekest. Thou dravest love from thee, who dravest me. God bless you.